Hello and welcome to Overcome a Mental Health Podcast. I'm very excited for today's guest. I want to welcome onto the show Dan McQueen. Dan, how are you doing?
Very well, Travis. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to have you on here. Um, let's just get right into your story if that's okay with you. You just want to give
Yeah,
us
it
a little
sounds good.
introduction and go ahead and get us
So,
started.
my story takes place back in jolly old London, England. Cup of tea, fish and chips, bad teeth. We're in the situation here. I've been having headaches for a few weeks, working in tech, massive headaches that were like really, really painful headaches. So I was on the tube one day. The tube's how you zigzag around London, right? Lumbering towards Nine Hill Gate tube station on the district line. Headaches are really encompassing, really, really defying the odds of what I can tolerate. And the video starts to go spotty. I see stars. It slowly starts to fade to black. It's a race. So you could arrive at the station first and you're the blindness. Step onto the platform, mind the gap, and the lights go out. I can't see a thing. So I want to ask you, Travis, in my shoes, able-sighted guy your whole life, all of a sudden you're thrust into the depths of blindness. The station's swirling around you. What's your first thoughts?
I'd be freaking out. I'd be pretty much going in panic mode.
Yeah,
The
that's,
way,
that's an appropriate response.
huh?
That's an appropriate response for sure.
Yeah. And uh yeah, I think it'd be basically just panicky, like really bad. Like
Yeah, it was pretty much spot on with me. Like I just stood there and I thought, how am I getting out of this pickle? This seems pretty bad. Blindness is not good. Could see 2 minutes ago. And I thought, and I thought, and I thought. After the longest 3 minutes of my life, my vision came back and I carried on my day. The next day I went throwing back into A&E. Now A&E is accident emergency in the UK, like ER in the States in America, I
okay.
imagine. I told them, what the hell's going on here? I was blinded on a tube station in London. This is not normal. What's going on? What's wrong with me? They ran some more tests and again, they thought it was vertigo. They sent me home. On the way out, they told me I could always get my eyes checked by an optometrist. An optometrist, I thought, okay, that's kind of odd, but sure, why not? Let's try that out. Next day, the headaches were back with a vengeance. Painkillers like candy for them was doing nothing. Found myself in Mr. Patel's chair. He was midway through a routine exam when he stopped the exam. He excused himself from the room and he comes back a few minutes later with a sealed envelope which he hands to me. He told me to go directly to Moorfields Hospital, Travis, which I did. Well, tell a lie. I stopped at home first to grab a Jack Reach book by Lee Child, a phone charger, and a bite to eat. Then I arrived at Moorfields Hospital, handed them the envelope. They ran the same test there again, then escalated me up to Charing Cross Hospital. We're getting somewhere. I'm thinking, this is good. Finally figuring out what's going on here. This is positive right now. It turns out, Travis, that I had a dangerous buildup of pressure in my brain caused from a non-cancerous cyst in my pineal gland. It's preventing the fluid from my brain to drain as it normally would. Now, it turns out I required emergency brain surgery tomorrow. Now, it turns out my world's about to change altogether. After a frantic back and forth with folks in Canada, the last text message my mom received reads, I'll see you soon, Mom. Think I'll have a new haircut next time I see you. Love, Dad. Mom's in the air flying to London on June 21st, 2014. I'm on the operating table. Something goes horribly wrong. I have a massive bleed in the brain, a brain hemorrhage. The cyst burst when they operated. So Mom lands and finds I'm in critical condition. I was in a coma for 4 weeks. Was in and out of consciousness for months after this. I never did dice touch and go. When all was said and done, I learned how to walk, how to talk, and gosh, even how to smile again.
So at this point, like what was going through your head? How were you like mentally handling this?
Well, I woke up, my mom, dad, brother around the bed. I'm trying to talk to them, but I can't talk. The trachea had me, I fried my vocal cords. I'm trying to talk to them, but I can't talk. I go, give me a pen and paper. So write down the pen and paper, I go, get me out of here. And I pointed at my brother, I go, you make this happen. You make this happen. My first thought was like, I'm in a foreign country. This looks expensive. Let's get the hell out of Dodge. Let's get out. You can get out of the spot. This is horrible. Needless to say, he did not break me out of the hospital. I was there for months afterwards, but my initial reaction was to get the hell out of Dodge. And I slowly began to process what had been told. Dan, you had a brain hemorrhage. You just woke up from a coma. You can't walk. You can't talk. They didn't tell me I couldn't smile, but I saw some photos of me in those early days, and it was a pretty bad grimace. But reality came pretty quick, and my life changed in an instant, but I didn't realize that until 4 weeks later, right? So I wake up being told this is my new reality, and being like, well, what do you mean I had a brain hemorrhage? Like, I was in a coma, like, I can't, my leg had atrophied, so I couldn't walk. I was in a wheelchair, right? And stuff got pretty real pretty quick, man. Like, that wheelchair took 45 minutes to get into the first week, then 40 the week after that, then 35. Like, it was every ounce of my body trying to get in that wheelchair in 5 minutes faster than the week before. But it was dire straits.
Well, it's a huge life change. Like, I can only imagine. And from what you explained, so I've suffered from migraines for years, but you just explained stuff that's I can't even comprehend what you were going through. Like, because migraines, like, they'll knock me out, but I've never, gone completely black or anything, and just, it's crazy. Like,
yeah, this was pretty bad. You're supposed to do routine surgery, right? Have the pineal gland or the cyst not burst. It would have been a brain hemorrhage. Would have been like, wouldn't say day surgery, but it would have been pretty basic surgery, right? But the brain hemorrhage kind of complicated things. And I was put into a medically induced coma, which I didn't want to wake up from. They put a feeding tube up my nose and down my stomach to feed me. But I'd rip it out. So because I hated it. It was so uncomfortable, I'd rip it out, right? And they put mitts on my hands so I couldn't rip it out. And I'd work on these mitts for days in the coma. I'd finally get it out, and I ripped it out. And they'd mitt me up, and they'd have to x-ray me every time they put it back down to make sure it was my stomach, not my lungs. So, like, I lost a ton of weight. And it was, they told my parents, like, look, he may not make this. Like, he's in a pretty bad way. They'd use ice blankets above and below me to keep my core temperature down when I was in a coma. So I had a violent shivering. Family said it was horrible to watch. Hooked up to 13 tubes in the nose to monitor various things, giving me medicine. Alarms constantly went off, so blood pressure spiked, her heart rate too high. It was bleak. It was dire. Prognosis did not look good.
So when you came out and, like, started realizing, like, kind of this new, I almost want to say new life, like new way of living, what was your mindset? Like, were you automatically like, oh, I can get through this? Or was it like more kind of negative?
Well, I never was vocally negative, but I wasn't stoked about the situation, right? Like, I was, this kind of blows. Like, this is not good. But I realized that, like, I had friends visit me and, like, family visit me from Vancouver. Like, they were very supportive, lots of support system, right? Huge support system. I didn't want to be negative around them, because who wants to be around a dour, sour guy? Like, so I'm just like, you know what? It's okay. Like, I'm still alive. I made that decision in my mind. Like, look, I'm still alive. Like, I could have been dead. Like, in all honesty, I'm on my probably 6th or 7th life by now, but, like, I could have died and I didn't die. It's not fair this happening, but guess what? It's like, life isn't fair. So, like, you got to navigate the situation now. So I realized it's not what happens to you, but how you think about it, what you think about it mentally. So I fostered my mindset and started to pick small, winnable goals to try and incrementally improve and, like, ratchet my life back up. And that wheelchair took 45 the first week, then 40, then 35, then 30, then 25, then 20. It was like, and that was like full send, me busting my tail getting in that wheelchair 5 minutes faster than the week before. And, like, it was marginal gains, but over time they compounded. And, like, I realized, like, hey, Dan, like, you're not dead to rights here. Like, you still get a chance at this. And I started rehabbing with a vengeance. Like, I wanted to get back to, salvage some part of my life that I could grasp and maintain. And wasn't sure how far I'd be able to rehab, because, they told my parents I wouldn't be able to, walk or talk. They told my parents I wouldn't be able to talk again, because the vocal cords fried my vocal, the tracheotomy fried my vocal cords, right? It's the way the nurse got me talking again. Just kind of interesting. Bold move on her part, but my parents had built this little dossier on me when I was in a coma, like, who Dan is besides the injury. He's a sportsman. He's a master's student from Sweden. He's a world traveler. He's played these sports. Here's a picture of his girlfriend. He's a real person, right? She queued up on the sportsman aspect of things, and she goes, I'll get him again. Took me down to the park, some kids playing football, soccer across the park, and she goes, Dan, those kids across the park, they don't think you're good enough to talk. they don't think you're good enough to talk. And I found out pretty quickly, like, that's a trigger for me. Being told I'm not good enough to do something, like, and I yelled some profanities across the park. I'll spare you your listeners now, but, like, needless to say, I found out what motivates me pretty quick, and I hammered that. So, like, I yelled across the park some profanities, and I got back to talking again. And then, like, walking was, a slow process. So I had to wear a splint on my left leg to gently stretch out the leg muscle because the leg had atrophied in the coma. This is after they inject me with, like, a sword-sized syringe full of Botox to, like, loosen the leg muscles. Experimental thing. I was like, yeah, let's do it. I want to get back to walking. For the splint the first night, through the night, no issue, no stress. This will be easy, I thought. This will be easy. Hinting that it's not going to be easy. The second night, after 20 minutes, was painful. After 30 minutes, it was dreadful. After 40 minutes, it was unbearable. I buzzed the nurse. Picked split on my leg, can't handle the pain, I told them. Before they left, I told them, tomorrow, we're doing this for an hour. I'm a walker. I can handle the pain, I told them. Big talk. Then. So third night, they wrapped my leg. They tied it off with the ankle. Give me the clicker, the nurse call button. They go patrol the Wilson ward. Now, the Wilson ward was an L shape, so short on this side, long on this side. Short on this side, long on this side. Being in that hospital room that smells like only a hospital room can smell, sanitized, sterilized, it's clean. But you wonder what sort of atrocities have been committed on the guys of that lemony zestness. After 10 minutes, the leg's painful. After 20 minutes, the leg's dreadful. After 30 minutes, the leg's unbearable. I start past the clicker back and forth, trying to disrupt myself from the pain. The pain is excruciating. I can't even describe it to you. I've got double vision still from the brain injury, Travis, so I see two of you now, which is, fantastic. But when you're passing the clicker back and forth, I'm just groping for this thing. I'm just trying to catch it and feel it. And as the pain ratchets up, my throats get more enthusiastic. Until eventually, inevitably, it lands on the hard little floor 3.5 feet down the ground. Yet. Look over the edge of the bed. I can see the clicker on the floor looking back at me. Mm-hmm. If I can get that clicker, I can stop this panic and this monstrosity. Only problem was to fall from that height. Might break my arm. In fact, I figured about a 50-50 chance we'd break my arm. A coin flip, not the best odds. I changed tack. I'm trying to untie the splint, but it's tied up at the ankle, not at the hip. I can't reach out far down. I'm not that flexible. I'm lunging for it, but I can't reach it. Even if I could, I can't untie a knot. While I'm, like, at my wit's end of flexibility. Help, I'm yelling as loud as I can. The word the Wilson was an L shape, right? Short on this side, long on this side. Short on this side, long on this side. They're at the far end of the ward. They can't hear me on for help. I suddenly flip the coin. Drop down and grab the clicker. Even if I break my arm, the splint's got to come to my leg. This part number 1, 2, and 3. I lower myself off the edge of the bed, and I crash down in a heap. Blankets, wires, cables to the yard sale. The arm holds, and I hammer the clicker, expecting the nurse to come bursting into the room like the bats has been thrown up. They kind of stroll in 5 minutes later. What you in the flow of? First of all, I say. That's a fantastic British accent up there. Where'd you say you're from again? I did not say that, Travis. I said, let's get the splint off my leg, please, and I'll tell you all about this. It's not what happens to you, but how you respond to it matters, right? Mm-hmm. The reason why I told you the story, Travis, I learned 3 lessons from the experience. The first lesson being, probably most evidently, let's not pass the clicker back and forth. That's a bad idea. Obviously. Second lesson was, let's tie the splint off the hip, not the ankle. That way I can untie this should this happen going forwards. And the third lesson was, let's always be solutions-oriented when things come up in life. That clicker was the most important thing in my world. The solution was there. In life, you're going to have solutions. Focus on solutions. Problems are going to come up, but how do you resolve your issue? How do you fix your problem? With the help of the splint, I got back to walking on the Wilson Rehab Center on the zero frame. It's like a 4-post walker you kind of lurch forward on. And I moved up to the Ferrari now. Ferrari was a 4-wheel walker that I could kind of waddle around in quickly and pick up some speed. It's a walker for old people, right? So I'm not going that fast. For me, this is grease lightning. I was ripping. Then moved up to naked walks. Now, what's a naked walk, you may ask? I'm walking without sport aids. I'm walking naked. But when I told people I went for a naked walk this afternoon, the look they gave me was so perplexed that I kind of loved it. So I just kept going with that. Then came time to walk in Tune Broadway. So, Travis, have you been to London, England?
No, I have not.
Okay, well, Tune Broadway is an area in South London. An area they call up and coming. Think loud sirens, drugs, gangs. It's dirty, it's hectic, and boys, I'm walking with a cane. walk with an eye patch. After 4 months in a wheelchair, I'm literally Bambi on ice. I turned the corner to walk on the ice for the first time. Immediately get slammed into by someone. Stagger back a few feet. Someone scurries past me on the right-hand side. I thought I was done with the rats. Someone had been stabbed on the sidewalk over here. I'm thinking that's a pretty wild place to learn how to walk. After a few days of this, I was thinking, this is the worst place to learn how to walk in the world. Can't they see I'm trying to walk here? Can't they see I'm trying it? And then one day my perspective shifted. Maybe this is the worst place to learn how to walk in the world. Maybe it's the best. If I can walk here, I can walk anywhere. The tune probably didn't change, right, Travel?
Mm-hmm.
But it went from the worst to the best in my mind, and I'm reflecting that. What are you looking on your left you're convinced is the worst? Convinces that's the worst. Hey, maybe it is. Maybe you can find a way to turn down the suck a little bit. Shift that perspective a little bit. I heard Mike Tyson famously said, everyone's got a plan if they get punched in the mouth. Now, Travis, your punch may not be a brain hemorrhage, right? Facts. It will be a job loss, a breakup,
Yep.
diagnosis for you, a loved one. You will take that punch in the mouth. How you respond?
Yeah.
I'm offering a compass, not a map, but a compass that always points towards the north. We'll look at things like mindset, perspective, and hacks. Hacks that allow you and your team to be better than yesterday, tomorrow. My name is Dan McQueen, and the reason why I told you I struggle learning to walk and tune Broadway is when you change the way you look at the world, well, look at changes. And you don't need a brain hemorrhage to understand that. That's kind of a rundown of like my progression to walking and reframing stuff as obstacles as opportunities, and kind of solidifying my mindset is like, no, you want this toughness, this challenge, because it's making you better. If you designed a place to learn how to walk again, you would want to make it challenging and difficult, not easy and simple, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that mindset shift happened. Like I began to look forward to my walk. Bump into me, crash past me, good, bring it on. If I can walk here, I can walk anywhere. Like that solidified my mindset. To woes me, to why me, to try me. Like I look forward to the strife, the struggle, the strain. And I just ratcheted it up and like kept going. But like you got to shift your mindset with this stuff, right? You could it could be the worst or it could be the best. You got to choose. Anything in life, like you get to choose how you face stuff, and I've just chosen to face it as the best, and that's a mindset I've adopted after many failures and scuffed knees and bruised elbows. But like I've learned that like that's how you progress in life, is by going through the tough times.
Well, yeah, for sure. I actually really admire your mindset, your positive outlook on stuff. Because me personally, like through some of my most difficult times, one of my most challenging times was like when I started having seizures years ago. But for years and years, I've just been very negative, and I honestly don't think it was until the last like 2 years where I've actually started to try to like get out of that mind frame, because the more negative I am, the worse things are going to be.
Well, it doesn't serve you to be negative, because it's not fair that it happened, right? But like, guess what? It's happened. It's not.
Yeah,
It's not fair, but it's not your fault. It's your responsibility to navigate the situation now.
yes, and it's such a victim mentality that like nobody wants to have.
Well, you can choose how you go through life as like a victim or not. And like, I'm not a victim. Like, you'll never hear that word come out of my mouth. Like, it's happened. Guess what? You got to handle this situation. Handle your shit, right? Like, and you face this every day. There's this good YouTube clip that I love from Jocko Willink. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Jocko.
I've heard the name before and seen a couple of his clips.
He's got this great video called Good. And it's a phenomenal video about like just, this guy talking about all this bad stuff that's happening. He always says, good. I get a chance to do this. Good. I get a chance to do that. And it just fires me up, because it's like, you know what? There's always some good that's going to happen from something. Like, you get a chance to rectify the situation. The brain hemorrhage happened. I wouldn't say it's good, but you're not dead. You're still alive. Woke up from the coma. That wasn't something they thought would happen. Go back to talking again. That was something they think would happen. Go back to walking again. They didn't think that would happen. And like, and you just stack these goods, and before you know it, you're back to making waves, making progress. And it's not easy, but it's simple, right? You just the mindset of like, is it good or bad? Like, good. Foster that, and you can be amazed at what you can accomplish.
Yeah, and See, and then I remember we can correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm thinking wrong here, but you not only went through the brain surgery once, but you went through it twice, correct? Am I thinking of it?
Oh, that's right. That's right. So what
Yeah.
had happened was I got discharged from Wilson after about 6 months. And so about a year after the brain hemorrhage, I was out of the hospital. Well, maybe 8 months. In the end, doing therapy at home, like occupational therapy, vocational therapy, preparing for work to return back to Hootsuite. My company, my tech company that I worked for in London, my job had just gotten into an implementation specialist. And I was like, I'm going back to work. This will be awesome. 2.5 days a week, 3.5 days a week. And the game plan was to meet my mom at the tube station before I went to work, and she'd go out for a walk. And I go into the office to make sure I got off on time because, early days from the injury, there was not always a given. And one day I didn't show up, right? She calls my flat, no answer. She walks through my flat about 5 minutes away from the Salgrave Road tube station on London, on the Hammersmith City line. And she knocks on the door, no response, and then she opens the door. And she finds me unconscious on the floor. Calls 999, like 911 in the States.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm rushed to the hospital of emergency brain surgery. And I wake up the next morning, beeping noise, the heart rate monitor went up behind me, beep, beep, beep. What happened? Then you had a second brain surgery. I mean, what do you mean? The shunt that's in my head after the first surgery had blocked the hydrocephalus or water on the brain, which is very rare apparently, less than 10% of cases. So I'm thinking, lucky me, this is fantastic. And all my progress is washed away. In an instant, I'm back to square one. And I'm thinking, this is insane. I've just been working for a year to get back to the office, to put this behind me, making strides, making gains, and this is all stripped from me in a second. And I describe my recovery like a W, right, Travis? So the first setback's down here. I kind of scamper back up, maybe like a third of the way back up to where I was before. The second setback's not where the first one was, but much lower. Well, like the depths of the human experience, I call it. The hopes and dreams snickered at, the injuries there just claiming you, like, if you thought you got out of this, bud, you ain't going nowhere. You had nothing going on, bud. You're going nowhere here. And I was low. I was dire. It was so mentally taxing to do this. And I already done rehab in the hospital, so I wasn't able to go back to the hospital to do this. I do this all remotely. My mom had to fight tooth and nail to get it done that way. And inch by inch, row by row, we slowly started to make strides and get back to walking. Because I knew that the gains were lost, right? Like the gains that I had made cognitively were all lost, but I knew that I could do them because I had just done them before, like 6 months earlier. So that mindset of like, I know I can do this. And I slowly started to ratchet up. I mean, it wasn't as bad as the first time because I could still walk, which was helpful. But everything else was back down to zero. And I had to fight to get back up. And it was just incrementally ratcheting back up and fostering that mindset of like, I can do this, and it was the darkest time for my family for sure.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Just the thought of that happening twice to somebody, just like I think about it and I'm just like, oh, like it would take me down to the depths of hell for sure. Like, so at this point, like, how long does it take you to get kind of everything back? Like, what's it like to like get back on track? And like you said, you're still walking, but you have to obviously learn to talk and do everything else again.
Well, no, talking was still there, but the cognitive
was
still,
okay.
Yeah, the cognitive, like just getting myself back up and ramped back up to like thinking properly, and then had to appease Hoots because they were like, we might have caused this because we put you back to work. I'm like, no, it wasn't you. It was just carbs in my hand, right? And that's just, luck of the draw, right? And that was very difficult to get my mind around that and to come to terms with that. But it was no one's fault, right? It just happened. Just like the first setback, but like it was grueling. And it took so much mental fortitude to kind of keep my mindset pure and not go down the pity spiral of woe is me, this isn't fair, because it's not fair. But it's not your fault, but it's your responsibility, right? Like I can't realize you get to do, you're still with us, right? You're still here. And now I still got like a medical alert bracelet, which I wear today, that shows like a VT shunt. In case I'm found unconscious, that's the first thing they should check. And and eventually back to this up, go back to work, and eventually ended up with 4 half days a week in Hootsuite, full client load, and chip away with it. But this was like months of work and grind and just taking a long time to do everything. And it was very difficult to clamber back up, but you got to keep going, right?
Mm-hmm. So why, like, with everything that they did to your brain and the surgeries, and I'm only asking this because you showed the bracelet that you have.
Yeah.
What are the chances that like something else could happen like this? Like pretty slim, or?
I mean, that was 10 years ago that setback happened, or 9 years ago that setback happened. So I think we're touch wood. Like the VP shunt they found the fluids found another way to drain from my brain. So I think it's okay, but it's always there, I guess. The shunt's still in my head. They don't take it out. That's for life. I get that, which is, a wonderful little bump on my head. It's lovely. But look, with a brain injury, you're never out of the woods, right? Every day I wake up with intention. I gotta wake up with, early, meditate, shower in the shower cold. I gotta armor up for the day to face my day the best I can, because if I don't do that, I'm not as good as I could be. And I realize that I'm working with a less bandwidth than maybe I had in the past. I would say my battery's about 75% now compared to how it was. And my battery drains much faster than everyone else's. Like, I drain fast. And I need naps or meditation breaks to recharge and refresh myself to carry on and carry on with my workload, right? And that's something I've learned through trial and error. And I've got to accommodate that and navigate that in a way that best suits me and what I'm trying to accomplish. So it's just being self-aware and kind of understanding what makes you tick and what makes you work. And, I wear a Whoop strap now as well, which is something you might have seen in that previous flash of my wrist. The Whoop strap tracks your rest, recovery, strain, all this fun stuff. And I really swear by this because I based my day off how I recovered. So last night I slept moderately well. Didn't recover that well, but I was okay. So I went to the pool today, crushed some lengths, and got ready for this interview today. So it's all about kind of managing your battery and managing your expectations.
Yeah, learning to know your boundaries, like for sure. And one thing that I want to get into as well is you started teaching, is it like courses or just going around speaking about resilience and that type of stuff to teach people these tools? Like, at what point were you like, oh, this is what I want to do, I want to go and teach this to people?
Well, I visited my brother in New York when he was living there, and had a coffee one day. Went out to go for a coffee when I was in work, and I just had this epiphany of like all these lessons I learned. I just wrote them down on notepads. Like, I've got all these ideas about like value props and hacks and ways that I kind of navigated this. Because the dots didn't line up looking forward, but looking back, they kind of make sense of how this all worked, right? I was like, well, I got some lessons I could share and pass along here, right? So wrote this keynote of this presentation I used to give to my outpatients at Wilson Rehab Center, which I give for them once a quarter. I talk to the outpatients and describe how you navigate the world outside of the nerfed up world of the hospital. Because the hospital is great, but it's not the real world. And the real world can be quite abrasive and sharp corners and hard edges. And you're not used to it, you may fall on your face. So I shared that once a quarter for them for a couple of years. And then I gave a talk at Hootsuite. Reading off a script. I didn't memorize the whole thing. I was, pretty basic in that capacity, but I gave the talk in person. That was really well received. And I moved back to Vancouver a couple of years ago. Gave a talk for the Mental Health Day. And the feedback I got from that presentation was so profound, so positive, and so this changed my perspective on stuff. I'm like, there might be something in this. I could make a career of this, right? So when I lost my job from Hootsuite a couple years later, part of a corporate restructuring, wrong side of a spreadsheet, another no fault of my own, I decided I'm a keynote speaker tomorrow, which means I need a computer today. So I, went down for boozy lunch, crushed a few margaritas, and went down to the Mac store, picked up a new computer, which I'm calling down today, Travis. And I've been keynote speaking ever since. And that's been, a life passion of mine to kind of share my lessons learned and my experience and help you foster resilience, because it's something you can build, right? You can foster resilience, meaning you can flex that muscle and become more resilient. And how do you do that? Well, you keep promises to yourself. They can be small, but every day I wake up and I meditate and I shower in the shower cold, and I do that day in, day out, week in, week out. So I don't think that I can do it. I know I can do it because the stack of evidence that shows I do what I say I'm going to do. And by keeping promises to yourself, you can foster resiliency, but pick a small winnable target and then expand. So, pick something small. Like I always go for a walk every morning before work when I lived in Harrogate Ladder in North London and in London. Yeah, walk for 1 block. Next block, next week I do 2 blocks, then 3 blocks, then 4 blocks, then 5 blocks, then 6 blocks, then 7 blocks. And I'd ratchet it up. Before I knew it, I'd been doing this for 6, 7 months, and I had a stack of evidence that says I do what I say I'm going to do. But everything can be done this way. Like I swim in the pool 3 times a week now, Travis. And I set an intention for laps in the pool. Today I did 60 and 51 minutes. But every day I set an intention for laps, and I owe those laps, save one exception. And I'm very strict with this exception. If there's a backstroker in my lane, I can punt the laps owed, no questions asked, and I can go in the sauna and steam room and wind down that way. I got a special thing with backstrokers, Travis. It's a personal thing, maybe. I don't know. They drive me nuts. So I can punt that entirely. So it's just keeping promises to yourself, but you do that over days, weeks, months, and years, and it compounds over time, right? You can rewire your brain and retrain your brain, but you have to keep those promises to yourself because every day you look in the mirror and you see yourself and was I true to this person or not? And if you're true to that person day in, day out, you don't question if you can do it. You've done it. You did it yesterday. Why can't you today? So just start small and start ratcheting it up, but keep those promises. And one more example I'll share with you, Travis, then I'll pause for questions. I've got this new one that I've started last week. I was in the sauna. After my swim, I'm on the top shelf. I'm sweating buckets. I'm in there for 10 minutes. Maybe I'm getting to the peak of my sauna capabilities. It's not that hot of a sauna, to be fair. It's a public facility, so it's not like a crazy hot sauna, but I'm sweating buckets in there. I'm sweating, I'm panting heavy. And I decide then I'm not the next one out of the sauna. I'm not the next one out of the sauna. And I'm panting heavy. I'm breathing heavy. I move down a row. Head between my legs, I'm sweating buckets. I'm on the brink of I can't handle this. And after about 5 minutes, the longest 5 minutes of my bloody life, someone finally got up and left, and I went right out behind them. But I wasn't the next one out of the sauna. And little things like that, just proving that you can do that. You can foster resiliency and improve that muscle. It's a muscle like anything else. It's a muscle you have to flex day in, day out, and know that you can do what you say you're going to do. Little things like keeping promises to yourself can really improve your resiliency.
So what, where did it go? Had it in my mind. So do you think that resilience is best described as something that people are born with, or is it something that you have to learn?
Look, I always say I was a pretty resilient guy in some capacity. I had lots of stuff in my life that I had to push through and navigate. For instance, I'll share one story with you now. When I moved to Malmo, Sweden for a master's in 2011, I had booked a hostel for a week, and I figured I'd find housing after that week and make it work. Because that's what I've done for my whole life, is found accommodation in last minute capacity. There was Malmo Festival and a big party in Malmo, so I'm kind of partying it up and enjoying the festival, exploring the city. This is my new home for the year. This is awesome. And I went to grab something from the front desk at the YHA hostel in Malmo, and they told me, "Oh, I see you're staying for another 2 nights, Dan." Well, yeah, I haven't got a place to live in, so I'll probably just extend my stay if that's possible. And she goes, "Oh, no, that's not possible." What do you mean? We have a strict 1-week policy here, so you can't stay any longer. You go, "Oh, okay." So I'm starting to look for their hostels. They're all booked up because there's a Malmo Festival. It's a big busy season for this hostel year round. I'm like, okay, that's not good. I went for some coffee with some German girls that I met from my program. And I explained my predicament. And she goes, one of the ladies was living in her van that year in this parking lot. I'm like, that's kind of aggressive, but okay, sure. She goes, yeah, you can live in common grounds in Sweden. It's a rule. I go, okay. She goes, I got a tent. You want to sleep on the beach? I'm like, can that work? She goes, yeah, sure. Why not? So I'm like, okay, sure, let's do that. So I set up the tent. School had started by this time, so I'm bringing my bag into the train station, locking in a locker, and going to class, and then coming back to my beach tent, grabbing the bag, and it's pretty rough. I'm not going to lie to you, Travis, but I did that for 2 nights, and then someone in my class heard that I was sleeping on a beach, and he goes, "Hey, Dan, you want to sleep on my floor?" And I go, "Yes, please, I will take the floor over this tent any day of the week." But like, I always kind of had that dog attitude of like, I'm going to make it work, right? But let me be very clear with your audience. You can for sure flex that muscle. You can build it up over time by keeping promises to yourself. And aim small, hit that target, and then expand it. Like, ratchet it up. Don't start with the moon. Like, aim with, I meditate every day for 20 minutes, right, Travis? I start with 2 minutes in the morning. Who can't do 2 minutes in the morning? The next week I did 4. Week after 6, then 8, then 10, then 12. You ratchet up to 20, so 20 is on a big jump. It's a 2-minute progression from the week before. But you foster this for sure. You can build that muscle and flex that muscle. So you can foster resiliency 100%.
So, in your mind, like how does resilience like differ from like simply like just like toughing it out or like suppressing emotions? Like,
I think it's an ingrained knowledge that you can overcome adversity, and resilience is the ability to know that you can endure hard stuff and endure hard things. And I don't question if I can do that anymore. I know I can do it because I've proven that I've done it over weeks, months, and years of this stack of evidence, right? Build that evidence locker that shows you do what you say you're going to do. And then you don't question if you can do it. It's just a matter of time before it works. So you gotta show yourself that you can do it. And takes work and takes dedication and takes an attitude that you're not going to stop until it's over, right? It's not over until I say I win, right? Like I'm very bullheaded with this.
and this is fantastic stuff. I'm telling you, like I'm picking up on stuff like I want to try to do, and I'm gonna honestly after this I'm gonna write down like just like little things that I want to do that I can start working on.
Yeah, the key is to aim small, right? Like, take a target that you know you can win tomorrow. 2-minute meditation. This isn't that onerous, right? Everyone can set time already for 2 minutes, breathe. Like, that's not that crazy to do. The next week do 4. Week after do 6. And you're slowly racking this up to a point where you want to get to. Don't start with 20. You're going to fail. I'll tell you that off the hop. 20 minutes without meditation is a long time to just like zone out and try to meditate. You're going to fail 100%. 2 minutes? I can do 2 minutes. Can you do 2 minutes? It's not that difficult, but 4 minutes, not that more. It's like 2 minutes more than before. 6 minutes, still like 2 minutes more than 4 minutes. So like, position yourself to win. Make the game so you can win. Like, don't reach for something that's outside of your scope. That's not to say don't reach, like, but reach when you know that you can land. I'll share one example about like shifting this mindset. So I used to have to shower in London with this bath mat, right? The doctor told my parents, like, he needs a bath mat. He can't stand in the shower on his own. He's too unstable on his feet. Every day I'd hang it up in the bath to dry, and it would be this symbol that I'm not good enough to shower, and it would drive me nuts. So one day I said, told my parents, I'm not using the bloody bath mat anymore. I can shower on my own. I don't use the bath mat. Oh no, Dad, you got to use the bath mat. The doctor told us you have to use the bath mat. I said, stop this bath mat. I'm not using the bath mat. The next day I didn't use the bath mat, and guess what? It's just fine. So I retired the bath mat. I used to walk around London with a cane. Came back to Vancouver one time for a trip to visit friends and family. Forgot the cane in London, and guess what? I was just fine, so I retired the cane. Only by risking failure can you stretch yourself to see where your limitations are. Now, that's not to say do something stupid to hurt yourself, but that's just saying only by risking failing can you really improve and step forward. And progression is what I'm after here, right? I had eye surgery a little while ago here, Travis. I'll tell the story quickly, and then we can jump onto something else. Notice I had a lot to the left to look the right eye to the screen. It's impulsive, it's ingrained, it's because the eye surgery kind of buggered stuff up. I had eye surgery on the left eye. My third surgery, I had 2 on the right eye, really improved the eyesight. Left eye, I tried to dissuade the double vision, it did not work, it backfired. Tremendously, it backfired. My dad goes, Dan, you're right having the eye surgery. I go, yeah, it's changed everything. It's changed everything. My body, I got used to the eyesight for 8 years, so I'd foster those connections and I could see properly, not tilt my head to the left. This eye surgery blew up everything, right? But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I don't regret having the eye surgery. I was taking the next step. There's a lovely book by Charlie Munger called The Boy, the Horse, the Fox, and the Mole. The boy's walking through a thick wood. He yells back at the horse. He goes, I can't see a way through. And the horse says, can you see your next step? And the boy says, yeah. So the horse says, well, then just take that. That's what I was doing yesterday, just taking the next step. And sometimes that step's going to be on a landmine. You got to deal with the consequences of your decisions. Like, I can't lose the muscle of taking the next step because that's how progress is done, by taking the next step. I can't just settle for life. Like, I'm chasing the life I want. And sometimes that's going to backfire, but you got to be okay with that. You can't lose the muscle of taking the next step. And that's really what I want to get across to your audience is take that next step and try it out.
That's good stuff. So how do like mindset shifts contribute to resilience, and how can someone develop a stronger mindset?
Look, they say the odds of you being a human being are 400 trillion to 1, right? 400 trillion to 1. It's a staggering number of zeros. I had to look up how many zeros that is. You're more likely to like win the lotto 1,000,000 times than you are have the life in the first place. This blip was in my DNA. I couldn't avoid this no matter what I did. It was coming up. I'm only Dan McQueen because this was in my DNA. I'm not Dan McQueen unless this didn't happen to me. So you get to do this. I could have been dead to rights. I wasn't. I'm not going to muck the whole hand because I don't like this blip in the DNA. I don't like this one card. I'm going to play the hand I've got. Mind you, the hand's not as strong as it used to be, but like, guess what? It's still a hand I can play. It's still a hand you get to play. So understand that first and foremost. But you do this by keeping promises to yourself, like day in, day out. Pick that small target and ratchet that up. And like, just keep chasing that, man. Chase life. Don't settle for life. Like, go after it and chase it. Where can you stop? Where can you fail? And improve next time. If you don't, I was on this podcast a little while ago. Travis, a bit off piece here, but I'll tell you the story. This gaming podcast. I'm not a gamer, right? My gaming days were back in Nintendo 64. So Mario Kart, James Bond, think that kind of old school vibe, right?
Also, that fun
and
stuff.
The host goes, yeah, good stuff, right? Host goes, well, Dan, just talk about those are games. Like, okay, cool, I got this. Life's like Mario Kart 64. You're playing that mushroom circuit, whatever. You go around, the first lap. The second left-hand turn, there's an obstacle on the left-hand side. Hit it the first time. Okay. Second time you go around, you hit it second time. Dude, you know this obstacle there. Drive around that. Start understanding patterns and start understanding how you can avoid and make this map work for you. Like, gamify life. And start thinking about things and like, well, the obstacles there, drive around that, man. If you keep driving into it, I can't help you. But if you understand there's something there, see these patterns start emerging, then you can start manipulating the game to make it work or avoid the obstacle at the very least. And power slide around that turn, right? Like, that's how you navigate this. But like, and that, if you're smart, you can do this. You fail once and you learn and you pivot. Like, I'm not the smartest guy in the world. So like, sometimes I'll hit the obstacle 2 or 3 times. But like, I'll learn after the 3rd time. That's for damn sure. If you keep driving into that obstacle, like, yeah, I can't help you. You know it's there, man. Drive around it. Like, that's this life. It's just like you see these patterns and you drive around this stuff. Like, that's with everything. It's a very simplified example, but like, you extrapolate that over life and you start to understand like there's patterns here. I did this last time, it failed. Okay, try it differently next time. That worked, okay. And then you fail the next step. And then, okay, so I made this, avoid this obstacle, and then I failed this obstacle, so then you avoid these 2, and then you make it a step further. Gamify life, like Alan Watts talks about play. And it's just so important to have that mindset and involved. It's actually a podcast, Travis, called Play Loose, Look Tight, documenting the process of life after. Kind of an odd name, I'll explain it to your group. It's a life mantra in 4 words. Play loose is the first section of that, right? Play is the first word by intentionality. Play loose, joie de vivre, have fun. You want to play loose. Conversely, you want to look tight. Your demeanor and dress and cleanliness. Be intentional and on time with your meetings. Play loose, look tight is a life mantra in 4 words. I live by that. But play is the first word. And if you can make life about play, it's a little less serious, a little less like strenuous, a little less onerous. It's a bit more lighter and less heavy. Make play the first word.
It says you have been like going around and being a keynote speaker. What to use like one of the most rewarding things about that?
When I share a story and I share a lesson learned and someone just gave me this like, oh, I never thought about it like that. That's the most rewarding thing I've got. I used to give this, as I mentioned, this talk I used to give to outpatients. And I gave a talk to this outpatient group, and there was one guy in there, and I really hammer home on swimming because that's a big part of my exercise routine. And he saw how passionate I was about swimming and how much I loved it. And he goes, the comment I got after the talk was, Dan, before the injury, brain injury, I used to swim all the time, but after the brain injury, it took me so long to get dressed and changed, I stopped swimming. As you were talking, I'm sure swimming again. Like when I first started going swimming, man, I would take 45 minutes to get changed, swim for 5 lengths, and then I'd get changed for 45 minutes. It took me forever. I was like, what's the point of even doing this, man? 5 lengths is nothing. But now I did, 60 lengths today in 51 minutes. And like, I've done that week after week, month after year. It's like ratcheted up to a point where I'm adding value here and gets it out of this. That talk, that comment there about like, I'm going to try again was so rewarding for me to see that, because even if he gives up next time, at least he tried one more time for me. Because he saw that it's possible. I did these brain scans 2 years ago at Health Tech Connect, this brain injury clinic, neuroscience clinic in Surrey, BC, Canada. There's a gel cap on your head, and they ask you these questions like computer, monitor, microphone, coffee mug, microphone, window. And they see your synapses fire right. My results came back as average. 2 brain injuries, average is pretty good, right? I read this as I'm shockingly average. Have you seen what I've been through? There's no way I'm average, man. Stuff that. Average. You don't know who you're talking to. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that's a good thing. That's a positive thing, because that means I'm no smarter or better than anyone I speak to. I'm just driven to go forward. I'm toes over the nose of my board, and I'm riding this wave down. I've decided to make this work. Come hell or high water, I'm making this work, and that means that you can do this too. I'm no smarter or better than anyone I speak to. I'm average, man. And that means that you can do that too. And that was very empowering to know that, because that means all the stuff is not like black magic. It's just grit, determination, and a will that's sometimes a bit stubborn. Well, very stubborn at times, but find out what works for you and just hammer that button, man. But you can do this too, because I'm no smarter than you. I'm average, baby.
Awesome. I love it. What advice would you give to anybody that is struggling, whether it be mentally or physically?
Better than yesterday. Let me explain. Whatever you're doing, however you are, just try to be a bit better than you were yesterday. And the same the day after that, better than yesterday. That could be walking for 1 block 1 week, 2 blocks a week after that, 3 blocks a week after that. But ratchet it up to a point where you can get to that threshold, right? Better than yesterday is a mindset you got to adapt and take on board. And that could be anything. It could be walking. That could be, getting ready 5 minutes faster than the week before, 3 minutes faster than the week before. But just something you can aim at and track it. I can now track my swims on my phone app. And I've tracked it for years. I don't know why I started doing this, but it's kind of a habit. And it goes back years of me swimming, and I track the amount of lengths I did and the time it took me. And this thing's probably tracked. I want to see how far I've actually swam over the past few years, because it's probably pretty bloody far. So I'm swimming 3 times a week at minimum 40, upper echelons would be 80 or 90 lengths. And that's just better than yesterday, right? I'm just making that a target I'm aiming for. But better than yesterday is how you can improve your lot and take steps to rectify your situation.
Yeah, that reminds me of something I've heard before. It's pretty much goes along the lines with the better than yesterday is just do 1% better. It's something close to that, I think. But
yeah, for sure. It's just have you read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, I believe?
I don't believe I have.
That's a great book. It outlines really simplified ways to improve and start something else. So you want to go to the gym, put your shoes on, go out the door. Next week, just put your shoes on, go to the gym, leave the gym. Just get to the gym. Still, you can get to the gym. And then the week after that, lift lift 2 weights. The measure of success is that you went to the gym. That's it. Doesn't matter what you do there. As long as you go to the gym, then I can return home when I want. I went to the gym today. That's fine. But if you build that habit of like just going and doing it, then eventually, well, I'm here now. I may as well lift some more weights. Like it took me so long to get down here. But the measure of success is just going to the gym. Doesn't matter what you do in there. Just I went to the gym 3 times this week. Could have lifted 3 weights. That's successful. And you realize, well, I'm here now. I may as well do more, right? And then you get a bit hungry with that. And I'm insatiable with this kind of growing, learning, development. Like I always want to push it better than yesterday. But better than yesterday is the mindset I invoke your group to take on board.
It's so cool. you're I'm just having all these thoughts of like what I want to do, like I said before. But honestly, that's all the questions that I like marked down. Is there like anything that you want to touch base on that we didn't?
I'd love to ask you, what are those things you want to try?
Honestly, one thing that I want to really push for, and you've given me the mindset that I believe I can do it, is, and I've been speaking to my wife about this, is I actually want to start public speaking. I have an idea in my head of like what my message would be, but I really want to own in on that and give it a shot.
I mean, you got the muscle here, right? The podcast is halfway there. You're telling stories, right? Like I've been on probably 60, 70 podcasts by now. I've told these stories 60, 70 times. So when I'm on stage, I've done maybe 20 stages, right? But I've told the story 90 times. So like I'm not telling the story for the 21st time, I'm telling the story for the 92nd time. The pause, the intonation, it's all a muscle that you got. The reps you're putting in with the podcast are just like they're helping you develop your public speaking style. And with the public speaking, like I recommend, podcasts are key, but also just, free up community events and just jump in and be like, speak for referrals and testimonials and slowly ratchet that up. Like I'm a relatively new speaker, but I've spoken on probably 20, 25 stages, but I've been on 70 podcasts. So when I tell the story, it's the 70 or the 92nd time I told the story. So it's like a muscle you got. And just better than yesterday. Like you're gonna fuck up and forget stuff and slide's not gonna work, or have fun with it, man. Like just be loose and don't be so stressed about it. Like it's just speaking. And everyone's got to speak, and everyone knows how nervous they get speaking in front of groups, right? So like you get nervous, of course you get nervous, but doesn't mean don't do it. You see the fear and you go into it anyways. So I really encourage you to try that out. Let me know how it goes.
I will for sure. And then the other thing that I want to do, I just need to get better. Like, this last year, I changed my diet, like, and cut back on sugars. Like, I really start working on me, but I need to expand that and continue to work on me. And that now includes like exercise and like getting better, like kind of being more fit.
That's a great target to have because like I work out probably 4 times a week. 3 swims, 1 gym, maybe 2 gyms if I'm lucky. It's moved from vanity to sanity, my friend John says. So I do it now more for the mental boost I get from clearing the cobwebs out. Like I go in the pool and I blast out those cobwebs and I know that I've worked my body. I can feel stretched and strained. But that's a win for the day, right? Like I've done that and it's a win. I'd recommend working out first thing in the morning if you can. Because at the end of the day, you can punt working out pretty easily. If you do it first thing in the morning, there's no excuses, no barriers. And then no matter what happens that day, it's a success. So I'd encourage you to start with early morning workouts if you can. If you have a tough time fitting into your schedule, I'm not sure if you do. But first thing in the morning is best to get it done because then you've done it for the day. You've been successful no matter what happens.
Awesome. So on top of this, like where can people find you and learn more about you?
Yeah, for sure. So my website's McQueen Dan, MacQueen, Dan.com. McQueen Dan across the socials. You can see some videos on YouTube as well. That story I told about Linda walking to Broadway is actually filmed on the Impact 11 stage, so you can find that on YouTube. We're available for speaking engagements online or in person. Yeah, that's about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. Like I said, you've inspired me to become more resilient and be a better version of myself. It looks like, were you going to say something? It looked like you were.
Yeah. I was just gonna say thank you for having me on the show, and better than yesterday, man. Like, don't try to conquer the moon here. Like, just better than yesterday, and like over time, that better than yesterday is a pretty big step, right? But if you do that day in, day out, week in, week out, year in, year out, like you'll be flabbergasted by the gains you can make. Like, I'm walking, I'm talking, I'm a speaker now. They told me I wouldn't be able to speak. They told me I wouldn't be able to walk again. I just swam 60 lengths today. Like, you get to do this, man. And every day you wake up with that mindset, like, you get to do this, and you know, you're going to tell me I can't? Like, no, stuff it. Like, make it happen, bud. Make it happen.
Yeah, I told myself well, just to finish up, I told myself for the longest time that, like, oh, I can't do this podcast. I can't do it. I've had this idea for probably over a year now. I want to say 2. I tried to start a podcast before. The idea wasn't like very, like, it wasn't there. Like, it just ran out of ideas to like speak about. Didn't even know if I want to guest. But then this one came along. I was like, I need to do this. But then I wasn't in the right frame of mind. And so I wasn't in the place to do it. Like, just so many things in my life were not balanced out. And then when I finally did it, like, and just keep pushing from one interview to the next and hearing these different stories, it just makes me want to keep going.
Well, momentum is such a big thing on this, right? Like, momentum and like forward progress is so key. Once you get going, it's easy to keep things rolling, but to start something from a dead stop is so difficult. So I encourage you to keep rolling with this. Once it's in motion, it's easier to keep it going than it is to like start from a dead stop. And that's with everything in life. Like, come home from work, throw a little laundry on, get dinner on the boil, and then sit down, take a load off. But like, keep things moving, and like you remove the barriers to entry. And I've learned this over years of not doing this and failing and not being motivated to do stuff. And now I just know what makes me tick and makes me go. And like, it's momentum, baby. Keep it rolling.
Awesome. Well, I think that's a good place to end. Thank you all for listening. I hope you can take something from this and go try yourself and become more resilient and have the same inspiration from Dan, or get the same amount of inspiration from Dan that I was able to get and pick up on. You can find us on at Overcome Pod on Instagram and on YouTube. And please like, share, and subscribe. Do all that fun stuff and help us get our name out there. Until next time, thanks everyone.